Jarrow Voices looks at two iconic events associated with the town: the gibbeting of William Jobling in 1832 and the Jarrow Crusade of 1936. And here, on the Jarrow mural, beside the building of the new tide tunnel, are Jobling and the Crusade, voices that need to be heard. It was in June 1832 that Jarrow pitmen William Jobling and Ralph Armstrong attacked South Shields magistrate Nicholas Fales. Jobling was arrested on South Shields Beach, tried and found guilty at Durham Assizes, and sentenced to be hung and publicly displayed upon a gibbet at Jarrow Slake that became known as Jobling's Post. Isabella, Jobling's wife, could see her husband clearly from the cottage near Jarrow Slake. Sadly, she had no memory of her husband when she died in Harton Workhouse in 1891. Being placed upon a 17-foot-high gibbet underlined the power of authority and sent a powerful message to the unions. Their voice was virtually silenced. Today you can find the gibbet in South Shields Museum. Jobling hung for 3 weeks until his friends stole the body. To this day, we do not know where the body lies. Jobling worked at Jarrow's Alfred Colliery, which closed in 1852. In that same year, Palmer's shipyard was opened by Charles Mark Palmer and his brother George. Palmer's became one of the greatest shipyards in Europe. However, when Palmer's closed in 1933, the town's fate was sealed. Jarrow was reliant on Palmer's for work, and almost 80% of the town became unemployed. Jarrow's council decided to organise a crusade and walked to London to make the government aware of the town's plight. Can you just place the Jarrow March into a historical context?
Well, the Jarrow Crusade took place in 1936, and it took place at the same time as three other marches. One was a march by veterans from Scotland, another march by the blind, and there was the 6th National Hunger March. So what you had in the 1920s and the 1930s was unemployment assert itself as the major social issue in this country.
On Monday, October the 5th, 1936, 200 men left Jarrow and walked into immortality. The Jarrow March, as it's known in the town, had leaders with Irish and Scottish connections: Simons, Scullion, Hanlon and Riley. A troll through the list of marchers underlines this: Connolly, Flynn, Flannery, Joyce and my Uncle Johnny, reflecting the immigration into the town. Sadly, none of the original marchers are alive today, but one direct connection we do have are the letters written between Con Shields and his late father, who was one of the cooks on the march. The letters are one of the most heartwarming stories of the march, and Con Shields tells his tale with passion and enthusiasm.
When my father, on the way down, he wrote his letters. And as far as I know, these are the only letters in existence now from a marcher. I'm sure that no other person has actually kept them. That's only, now for instance, this I think is a good one, this one. It was written from Barnsley. We just came into Leeds, and boy, we had a good time. I have had some good dinners in my time, but I do not think I can beat this one. It was marvellous. And there was another time when my father on the way, where they went to Nottingham. That is, I don't know whether you know that, but Nottingham was the capital of the boot industry at the time. Boot industry. And they actually gave all the marchers a pair of boots, you know. They did. They gave all the marchers a pair of boots. And I remember when the last night, when I seen him in London, like I seen him, the very last night, I came away, and you only give us 7 boiled eggs and a pair of boots.
Matt Perry, writer and historian in his book, The Jarrow Crusade, Protest and Legend, gives a clear account of the Crusade and its impact at the time and to this day. He also looks at Ellen Wilkinson's contribution to the Crusade and her life and times.
One of the things that's often said about the Jarrow Crusade is that it was a success. And if you look at the Crusade and what it set out to do, it came about because there was the offer of a steel yard with the expectation that there would be millions of pounds worth of investment, that there would be hundreds, possibly thousands of jobs returned to Jarrow, and then at the last moment that was scuppered by the steel industry and scuppered by the shipbuilding industry. And therefore what the Crusade was about was a protest at this failure to get the steelworks. It was an organisation whose leadership was by and large communist. So it's people like Wal Hannington, who was a member of the Communist Party from its inception, and therefore this is an uncomfortable truth.
Do you feel the Crusade achieved anything?
Not in that sense. That they wanted work for Jarrow. They never got it.
In narrow terms, the Jarrow Crusade didn't achieve what it set out to do, but it did make a very significant political impact.
But don't you ever forget now, historically, whatever, Jarrow is well known now because of the Jarrow March.
If it's set within the context of other protests by the unemployed during the 1930s, I think it's very difficult to argue that there's no relationship between those protests and the establishment of the welfare state.
And they thought, oh, great, something going to happen this time. But not, no. So when they were knocked back, I mean, honestly, I seen tears in their eyes. What happened when they went into Parliament with a box was received. That's all, received.
The name we associate more than any other with the Crusade is that of the town's MP, Ellen Wilkinson. Fiery, firebrand, wee Ellen, all have been used to describe one of the 20th century's most charismatic female politicians.
Well, Ellen was a very important figure to the march. She was the most prominent, perhaps the most prominent left-wing Labour MP at the time. She'd spent a fair amount in the 1920s as the only woman Labour MP.
What did you think she was like as a speaker?
Very, very good. Really good. You know, she got to the heart of the matter.
Ellen played a very important role, both in terms of the organisational side, in terms of voicing a sense of real injustice. Her speeches and her book written about the Crusade frame the injustice in a very powerful way. I think she's important to particular localities. She's obviously important to Jarrow and to a generation in Jarrow. But all of this is pretty superficial on one level. If you look at the concerns that she had during the First World War onwards, these are some of the issues that are relevant today. So her staunch trade unionism, her anti-fascism, her attitude towards war and peace, all of these questions are questions around which people are engaged in terms of politics, protest and so on. A Labour peer and historian, Lord Morgan, who argues that she's the most important female politician of the century, more important than Margaret Thatcher.
Sometimes it seems that the past never leaves Jarrow. But what I do know is that we need to remember two Jarrow voices, William Jobling and the Jarrow Crusade.